It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The flowers were perfect, the music soft, and every guest smiling. But then a voice cut through the laughter. "FBI, get them all!" In seconds, agents stormed the aisle. Cameras flashed and whispers turned to gasps. The bride froze, her world spinning, as a pointed finger singled her out. What crime could possibly hide beneath white lace and wedding vows? And why did the truth have to surface now, in front of everyone she loved? Sofia Alvarez had spent her life playing by the rules. Growing up in a close-knit community, she worked her way through college, earned a job at a respected architecture firm, and eventually met Daniel, a charming businessman with a seemingly spotless reputation. Together, they planned a wedding that would bring their families together, a celebration of love under the open sky, surrounded by bright flowers and the people who mattered most. That morning, the sun lit the garden in gold. Laughter floated through the air as guests found their seats. Sofia's father squeezed her hand before walking her down the aisle, his eyes brimming with pride. She felt safe. She felt seen. And for a moment, it seemed like nothing could disturb the perfect scene. But across the hedge, unseen by any guest, a convoy of black SUVs rolled quietly into position. Inside, armed agents checked their gear, eyes locked on the target list. For months, they had been building a case Sofia knew nothing about. And as she exchanged vows with Daniel, a storm was already closing in, one that would expose not just secrets, but deep-rooted prejudice that had been hiding in plain sight. The ceremony flowed like a dream. Soft music, gentle breezes, and the glow of friends and family watching with teary eyes. Sofia had no idea that in the shadows beyond the garden, plainclothes agents were already mingling with the crowd, pretending to be guests. Their radios buzzed with short, clipped orders. They weren't just here for Daniel. There were other names on their list. And in a way that would soon make the headlines, all of them had one thing in common. The toasts had just begun when Sofia noticed the older, woman in red standing near the reception tables. She didn't know her, but something about the woman's cold stare sent a shiver through her. The woman's lips moved as she muttered into a small device, her eyes fixed on the bridal table. Sofia tried to ignore it, forcing a smile as Daniel squeezed her hand. Then it happened. The first agent stepped forward, followed by another. Guests turned their heads, whispers swelling into confusion. The woman in red raised her voice, her finger stabbing the air toward Sofia, Daniel, and 3 other guests. "FBI, get them all!" Gasps erupted. Glasses shattered on the ground. Sofia's mother grabbed her arm in panic. Daniel's face drained of color, his jaw tightening as agents closed in. It was chaos. Chairs scraping back, phones lifted high to record the spectacle. But amid the shock, Sofia noticed something the others didn't. Every person the FBI moved toward was a person of color. Not one white guest had been touched. Her stomach knotted. Was this truly about justice, or was it something far more insidious? She didn't have the answer, but in that instant, she knew. Whatever was happening was bigger than just her wedding day. And it was about to get worse. The agents swarmed the lawn, boots crushing flower petals as they shoved past stunned guests. Sofia's veil snagged on a chair as 2 officers pulled her aside. Their grip firm, their tone clipped. "Stay where you are!" one barked, though she had made no move to resist. Daniel stepped forward, demanding to know the charges. His voice was steady at first, but the flush in his face betrayed his anger. An agent cut him off, pushing him back with a gloved hand. Cameras from guests' phones caught every second. The fear, the confusion, the humiliation. Sofia scanned the chaos. One by one, friends and relatives with brown or black skin were singled out and pulled from their seats. An elderly uncle, a college friend, even the florist's assistant, all lined up under the watch of armed men. Her heart pounded in her ears. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered almost to herself. The woman in red stepped closer, her eyes cold and unblinking. "It's better if you don't ask questions," she said quietly, her voice just for Sofia. "People like you never belong in places like this." The words hit harder than any shove. It wasn't about justice. It wasn't about law. It was about erasing them, their presence, their joy, from a space someone else decided they didn't deserve. Some guests pleaded, others yelled, But the agents didn't stop. By the time the handcuffs clicked shut on Daniel's wrists, Sophia's wedding had transformed from a celebration into a scene of public shame. And in that moment, she understood. This was the kind of story that wouldn't just fade away. Resolution and impact, 9 to 12 minutes. Hours later, the garden was silent. The music had stopped, the chairs sat empty, and half-eaten plates of food were abandoned on linen-covered tables. Sophia stood alone near the altar, her bouquet still in her hands, petals crushed from her grip. Daniel and the others had been taken away for questioning. No charges were read, no explanations given. The agents packed up and left without so much as an apology, their SUVs disappearing into the night. Only the woman in red lingered for a moment, watching from the edge of the lawn before walking away without a word. News of the raid spread fast. Clips from guests' phones went viral, not because of any proven crime, but because the footage told another story. The unmistakable pattern of who had been targeted. Comment sections filled with outrage, debates, and demands for answers. Yet official statements called it standard procedure, sidestepping the deeper question. Sophia knew her wedding day would never be remembered for the vows or the dancing. It would be remembered as the day joy was stripped away in front of hundreds, the day her family's dignity was treated like evidence. In the weeks that followed, she spoke out, not just for herself, but for every person who had been made to feel small in the very moments they should have been celebrated. She learned something that night. The most dangerous injustice is the kind that hides behind uniforms and legal language. And as she stood before the cameras, she asked the question that still haunts her. How many more beautiful moments have to be destroyed before this finally stops?